Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here. On this video, I want to share with you a mistake that I made that almost cost me a couple of £1,000, but ended up making me just under £4,000. So it was back in 2006, and I was buying lots of property from motivated sellers, buying cash, doing the same day remortgage with Mortgage Express, so I was putting no money into the deals. And this was a property I found up in Macclesfield. It was a former army barracks. There were lovely apartments, sandstone buildings, really fantastic. And I met this guy, I went to go and see him, and he was in a bit of a bad state. He wasn't working, he'd moved out of the property, he was living with his partner, he could not afford the mortgage. It was only a few £100 a month, but he couldn't afford it, he was in arrears, and he was going to get repossessed. He didn't really want to put it on the market, he didn't want the hassle, he wanted to get a solution really quickly rather than trying to wait for a buyer to find the property. So I agreed that I would step in, I would clear the arrears, about £1,000, and start paying his mortgage for him while I was going through the process of applying for a mortgage to buy the property myself. It was probably worth about £95,000, and I'd agreed to buy it for £77,000, so a pretty good deal for me. Anyway, so as time went on, my mortgage broker said there was a problem. We got the property surveyed and we found out that it was actually a freehold apartment. Now, most apartments are generally leasehold, and when you buy a leasehold property, you need to see how long is left on the lease. Because this was a freehold property, many lenders didn't like the idea of lending because, well, who's going to fix the roof if there's a problem? So basically, I couldn't get a mortgage on this property. Now, I'd committed to buy this property. I would pay this guy's arrears off, I was paying the mortgage each month, and I didn't want to let him down. So what I decided to do, I spoke to my solicitor, and my solicitor said, well, you could put a purchase option agreement in place, which is what we did. So basically, I was paying his mortgage until I found someone to buy the property. So I needed to find a cash buyer. Now, luckily for me, it's a lovely location, it was a lovely building, and there was someone who was in the block who was buying these properties for cash and then rented them out as serviced accommodation. So we put it on the market and we managed to find this buyer who came and bought the property for $85,000. And remember, I had the right to buy for $77,000. So because I had an option in place, what happened, the owner got $77,000, $85,000 was the price that was paid to the owner. I got the difference between the two. Now, I had some costs. I had to pay the estate agency fee, I had my legal costs, I had the arrears I'd paid off. But going from a situation where I'd committed to buy this property, and I was probably going to lose about £2,500, pull out and upset the seller, which I didn't want to do, because I had this purchase option in place, I was able to change the situation. So instead of losing £2,500, after all the expenses, I made a profit of just under £4,000. So a purchase option can be a fantastic strategy you can use to control a property whilst you're finding someone else to actually buy it. Or if maybe there's a structural problem, you can fix that and then obviously increase the value. Now, a lot of people worry about option contracts. They say, can I have the paperwork? The thing is, you really need to use solicitors to do the correct paperwork for you. But there is one thing you do need. It's called the heads of terms. So the heads of terms is a one-page document that basically summarizes the deal between you and the seller. Once you've got the heads of terms signed, that is technically a legally binding contract. But to make it enforceable, really you need solicitors to put the proper paperwork together for you. They do it based on the heads of terms. So if you want, I've actually got a sample template for heads of terms. You can just click on the link below and you can download that, and that's all you need to actually be able to do purchase options. So as long as you find the motivated seller, you find a win-win deal for them, you agree what the terms of the deal are, put it on the contract, that's your head of terms, you then send it off to the solicitors. So that's pretty much it. I do hope you've benefited from this little tip. As always, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.